My mother-in-law kicked me out of the expensive family vacation I paid for and demanded I stay home to babysit my sister-in-law's kids. I don't even know where to start with this. I've been married to Mike for about 2 years now, and let me tell you, he's awesome. We get along great, and he's supportive and loving. I feel lucky to have him in my life, but of course, no relationship comes without its baggage. And in my case, that baggage is in the form of his mom, Karen, and his sister, Emma. Let me be clear. I didn't go into this marriage thinking it would be all sunshine and rainbows with the in-laws. I expected some awkwardness. I knew Karen and Emma might take a little time to warm up to me, but the level of outright disrespect, I wasn't ready for that. So let's rewind a bit. When Mike and I first started dating, everything was great. We had that honeymoon phase where everything just felt perfect. Then I met his family, and things got a little weird. I remember the first time I met Karen, Mike's mom. We were at this casual family dinner, and I was nervous as hell. Who wouldn't be? Meeting the mom is a big deal anyway. We get there, and from the second I walk in, it's like I could feel her sizing me up. She didn't even try to hide it. She gave me one of those forced smiles that didn't reach her eyes. She was distant and cold, as if she were just going through the motions. I told Mike about it afterward, and he said, "Oh, don't worry. She's just like that with everyone." I gave her the benefit of the doubt at first, but it was clear that she was always going to be like this. After that, it was the same thing. She barely talked to me, and when she did, it was always some backhanded compliment or just straight up dismissive. Like when she found out I run a daycare business. She said, "Oh, so you're basically just a babysitter. Look, I'm proud of what I do. I worked my ass off to build my daycare business from the ground up, and I make good money doing it." But to Karen, I guess she saw me as just some nanny who wasn't good enough for her precious son. It didn't matter that Mikey was happy or that I was taking care of him. She saw someone who didn't fit her idea of what his wife should be. Then there's Emma, his sister. She's got this whole, "I'm better than you" vibe that's hard to ignore. The first time I met her, she didn't even bother to hide it. She looked me up and down with disdain, as if I were trash. She didn't even try to hide it from Mike. She made little digs at me in front of him, like, "Oh, you're still doing that daycare thing. When are you going to get a real job?" She had this idea that if you're not sitting in some office in a suit, it doesn't count. It was like she thought I was called a gold digger, even though I was the one making more money than Mike at the time. I didn't say anything though, because I didn't want to start drama. But it stung. What really got to me was how they acted like I didn't deserve to be part of their family. They'd have these family gatherings, and I'd always feel like the outsider. They'd all be talking and laughing, and I'd just be sitting there trying to join in. I tried to join in, but it was like they didn't even see me. Karen would talk about all these fancy things she wanted for Mike and how she hoped he'd settle down with someone who can really support him. I'm sitting right there, lady. I am that someone, but no. According to her, I wasn't good enough. I remember one time we were at this family party, and Karen had one too many glasses of wine. She started going on about how she didn't understand why Mike married so quickly. She went on and on about how important it is to find someone who matches your potential. I was literally sitting next to Mike, trying not to let my blood boil. But Mike didn't say a word. I could see the tension in his face, but he just let it slide. That's kind of been the theme of our marriage so far. Mike loves me, and I know he does. But when it comes to his family, he's always trying to keep the peace. I get it. I really do. No one wants to be stuck. In the middle of family drama, I wish Mike would stand up to them more. He should tell his mom and sister to back off. I've tried to fix things with them. I was the one who offered to help Emma when she was going through her divorce. I took her and her kids in for a few weeks, helped her get back on her feet, and even took her kids to school so she could get some sleep. I thought that would have earned me some respect. Nope. The second she got her life back together, it was back to the same crap. Like none of it even mattered. Karen wasn't any better. I've tried to get on her good side. I've helped Mike send her money when she was going through some tough financial times. I've helped out with family events. You name it. But it's like nothing I do is ever enough. She sees me as an outsider, not part of the family. Last year at a wedding, Emma badmouthed me to other guests. Mike overheard and lost it. He pulled her aside and told her off in front of everyone. I tried to calm him down but accidentally bumped into Karen. She spilled her drink all over her fancy dress. I didn't run over her dog, but she made this huge scene about how expensive her dress was and how clumsy I must be in my daily life. I felt like the whole room was staring at me, and I left the party early. Since then, things have been even more tense between us and his family. I haven't heard much from Karen or Emma since that wedding. I'm okay with that, but it's hard. I love Mike, but his family makes me feel like I'm constantly on trial. No matter what I do, I can't seem to win them over. This vacation I'm planning for all of us will be the thing that finally brings us together. Or it'll just be another disaster. We'll find out soon enough. After all the crap I've been dealing with from Karen and Emma, I'm gonna try one last time to bring us all closer together. I'm not a sucker for punishment, and I think a nice family vacation is the thing to help us get along. We can relax, spend time together, and hopefully get rid of this awkward tension that's been hanging over us since forever. I've been planning this for a few months. Before my birthday, I planned this whole thing. My birthday was coming up, and I could take time off work, so I did. I was gonna go all out, like booking a fancy resort for the whole family and making it a big, fun trip. I'm talking all expenses paid, top-notch stuff. I've been working my ass off with my business, and I can afford to treat myself a little. Plus, I thought it'd be nice to show Karen. I told Emma, I'm not just some nanny. I'm successful. I can do this kind of stuff. Mike loved the idea. He was all for it. He probably knew how stressed I'd been with his family and thought a vacation would help me unwind. We sat down one night after dinner and started going through options. We looked at different resorts and checked out activities. I wanted to pick a place that would make everyone happy. That was a mistake. After doing some research, we found this amazing place. It had everything. Beachfront views, fancy restaurants, pools, spas, you name it. I was super excited. I thought this was going to be the trip that finally got us on the same page. I told Mike I'd handle the booking, but I asked him to talk to his mom and sister about coming along. I figured it'd be better if he did that. Handle that part. They'll be more likely to say yes. Mike was cool with it, so he went to talk to them. That's when the first red flag popped up. He came back from their house, and I could tell something was off. He had this look on his face like he'd just wrestled with a bear. I asked him how it went. They were excited, right? He just kind of sighs and shakes his head. Not really, he says. What the hell does that mean? I ask him to explain. He tells me that Karen and Emma weren't thrilled with the idea of going on a vacation with us. Apparently, they'd both been to the resort I picked at some point last year and weren't interested in going again. They didn't even care that I was offering to pay for everything. Karen actually said, I've already been. There's no point in going back. The point is to spend time with your family. Karen doesn't see it that way. Emma was even less polite. She called me after Mike left. She told me she didn't want to be involved in my plans. She called them tacky. I'm spending my hard-earned money to treat these people. She calls it tacky. I'm not gonna lie, that one stung. I hung up the phone feeling like absolute crap. What's the point of trying so hard if they're just gonna keep throwing it back in my face? I was ready to cancel the whole thing right then and there, but Mike, bless his heart, talked me down. He reminded me that this wasn't about them. It was about us. We deserved a vacation. If they didn't want to come, then screw it. Emma called me again a couple of days later with a whole new set of demands. She said she'd consider coming on the trip, but only if I agreed to watch her kids while we're there. I love her kids. They're sweethearts, and I don't mind helping out. However, the way she asked me made it sound like I was doing her a favor. She was expecting me to do it like it was my job, and it wasn't just for a few hours here and there. She wanted me to be the full-time babysitter so she could relax. I thought maybe she was joking, but nope, she was dead serious. I tried to push back a little like, hey, I'm on vacation too. Maybe we can work something out where we all take turns or something. But Emma wasn't having it. She basically said if I wasn't going to agree to watch her kids. She wasn't coming, so there I was stuck between wanting to have this nice family trip and not wanting to be a doormat. I didn't know what to do. I vented to Mike about it, and he was pissed. He said it wasn't fair for her to treat me like that, and he was right. But part of me still wanted to make it work. I guess I was hoping that if I just sucked it up and played nice, maybe things I told Mike I'd talk to Emma again and see if we could come to some kind of compromise. When I called her back, it was clear she had no intention of budging. She told me outright that she didn't want to bring her kids along at all. She just wanted me to stay back and watch them while she went on vacation. She seemed to think I was going to sit at home and babysit while she enjoyed the trip that I was paying for. I was floored. I was at a loss for words. I tried to explain that I wanted her kids to be part of the vacation too, that it would be fun for all of us, but she wasn't having it. She said she had no interest in dragging them along and that I needed to understand my role in the family. I told her that if she wasn't willing to be reasonable, then maybe she should just stay home. I was tired of I bent over backward for people who clearly didn't care about me. After that, I hung up the phone and went to talk to Mike. He was just as frustrated as I was. We agreed that it was best to move forward with the trip, whether they came or not. But I still held out hope. I hoped that maybe they'd come around. Maybe Karen and Emma would realize how much I was trying. We could still have this nice family vacation. I'm an optimist, but looking back, I should have known better. So, here's where things get even more ridiculous. After all that drama with Emma, who basically tried to turn me into her personal babysitter for the trip, I thought things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Fast forward a bit, and I'm still going through with the vacation, but I haven't really heard much from Karen or Emma since that last conversation. It was radio silence. I was relieved to get a break, but I was wrong. Just when I thought I could breathe easy, Emma reappeared. She sent me a text. It was one of those, "Hey, hope you're doing well" messages. I knew what it meant. She was going to ask for something. I opened it. She wanted me to watch the I have to take care of some things tonight, but I'll be back in a few hours. I've been sitting here staring at my phone, and I've had enough. After everything that happened with these vacation plans, she's really coming at me with this. At first, I wanted to ignore it, but I figured it would only make things worse. So I replied, "Sure, I guess. But what time are you thinking?" I was trying to be civil, but I knew this was going to be a whole thing. Emma replied back right away, saying Emma dropped the kids off at 6 p.m. with no explanation or apology. It was as if it was completely normal to drop everything on me. I was like, okay, whatever. It's just for a few hours, right? Wrong. At 6 p.m., Emma showed up at my door with her kids. But here's the kicker. She didn't just drop them off and leave. She was standing there with this weird look on her face like she was about to drop some kind of bomb on me. I know I can't use that word, so I'm trying to play it cool. I ask everything okay, and then she says, "Oh, by the way, I might not be back until tomorrow." I'm just standing there like an idiot processing what she just said. Tomorrow, she didn't mention anything about an overnight stay. I wasn't prepared for that. I mean, I love her kids, but I didn't sign up to be their full-time babysitter, especially after all the... She's pulled, so I tell her, "Emma, I thought you said a few hours." She kind of shrugs and goes, "Yeah, I've got some personal stuff to handle and it might take longer than I thought. Thanks again. I really appreciate it." Before I can even say anything else, she's out the door, leaving me with 2 kids and no clue what to do at this point. I'm fuming. This woman has no sense of boundaries. But the kids are here now and it's not... I take responsibility for what happened, so I decide to make the best of it. I text Mike to let him know what's going on, and he's understandably upset. He says, "I'll talk to her later. Just focus on the kids for now." I do, ordering pizza and watching a movie. I try to keep my cool, but I'm thinking about how much of a pushover I've been. I ask myself, how did I let it get to this point? I've been trying so hard to make things work with Karen and Emma, and all they do is take advantage of me. I can't even plan a simple vacation without getting roped into babysitting duties that I never signed up for anyway. The night goes on, and as expected, Emma never comes back. Now I'm stuck with her kids overnight, scrambling to find pajamas and a place for them to sleep. I don't even have half the things they need because, surprise, Emma didn't bring anything. She didn't bring any clothes, toothbrushes, or anything. It was like she assumed I'd handle everything. Typical. The next morning, I wake up exhausted. The kids are running around the house like they own the place, and I'm just trying to keep my sanity. Mike had to leave early for work, so it's just me dealing with everything. I keep checking my phone, waiting for some kind of message from Emma, but there's nothing. Not a single text or call. It's like she disappeared off the face of the earth. By noon, I texted her, "Hey, the kids are still here. When are you picking them up?" I got no response by 3 p.m. I was losing it. I texted her again, more forcefully this time. "Emma, I need to know when you're coming to get the kids. This wasn't part of the plan." Still no reply. I was seriously considering driving over to her place and just dropping the kids off on her doorstep. But Mike convinced me to give it a little more time. She'll show up eventually. He was right, but not in the way I expected. Around 6 p.m., a full 24 hours after she first dropped off the kids, Emma finally showed up. She walked in like nothing's wrong. All casual and calm, like she didn't just leave her kids with me for a full day without any warning. I was standing there trying not to blow up, but I could feel the anger. He convinced me to give it a little more time, saying she'd show up eventually. He was right, but not in the way I expected. Around 6 p.m., a full 24 hours after she first dropped off the kids, Emma finally showed up. She walked in like nothing was wrong. All casual and calm, like she didn't just leave her kids with me for a full day without any warning. I stood there trying not to blow up, but I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. She looks at me and says, "Thanks so much. I really needed that break." I wanted to scream, but instead I say, "Emma, you didn't tell me this was going to be an overnight thing. I wasn't prepared." And do you know what she says? She just shrugs again and goes, "Oh, I thought I mentioned it. My bad, you're bad." That's it. I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. It was like she didn't care at all. She was inconveniencing me. Plain and simple. Who does that? Who just dumps their kids on someone without even a heads up? Mike gets home not long after, and he can tell right away that I'm on the edge. He pulls me aside and asks what happened, so I fill him in on everything. Bless him, he's ready to go off on Emma, but I stop him. I tell him it's not worth it. She clearly doesn't care, and I'm tired of fighting a losing battle. After everything had settled down and Emma finally left with her kids, I lay in bed thinking about the whole situation. I realized something important. I've been way too nice. I've let Karen and Emma walk all over me for too long, and it was time to put a stop to it. I couldn't keep bending over backward for people who clearly didn't respect me. The next time Emma tried to pull something like this, I'd have to put my foot down. I was done with babysitting without clear boundaries or being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. It was time to start standing up for myself. As for the vacation, I had a new plan in mind. Let's just say Emma and Karen were about to get a taste of their own medicine. After the babysitting disaster, I was done with Emma and Karen. I couldn't take the constant disrespect and how they used me whenever it suited. It was clear to me that they saw me as nothing more than a convenience. They didn't even pretend to care. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep letting them walk all over me. But I wasn't sure what to do. How do you deal with people like that? Part of me wanted to confront them. I wanted to let it all out. But knowing Karen and Emma, that would probably make things worse. They'd twist it around and make me look like the bad guy, and I'd end up feeling even more frustrated. So I did what I always do when I'm stressed. I started planning. I needed a way to take back control of the situation. Then it hit me, the vacation. The one I had been planning for weeks. The trip I was paying for with my own money. That was my leverage. If they didn't appreciate me, then they didn't get to enjoy a free vacation. On my dime, it was time to turn the tables. I knew what you were thinking. Why didn't I just cancel the whole trip right then and there? Well, part of me still hoped that maybe they'd come around. I know it's stupid, but I guess I wanted to give them one last chance to show they weren't total garbage. So instead of canceling the trip, I decided to play cool and see what happened. A few days later, I got a call from Karen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She rarely called unless she needed something, so I figured there had to be a reason. Sure enough, as soon as I picked up, she was all business. "Hey," she said. "I just wanted to check when we're supposed to leave for the vacation." She didn't mention the babysitting fiasco or apologize. She was just straight to the point, like everything was fine. Couldn't help but smirk. I was irritated. They thought they could just waltz onto this trip like nothing had happened. Typical. I was actually thinking of making some changes to the plan. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear Karen's confusion. What kind of changes? I said. Since I'm paying for everything, I figured I'd decide who's going. And after everything that's happened lately, I'm not sure you and Emma really deserve to come. I dropped that right in her lap, and let me tell you, the silence on the other end was golden for a second. I thought she'd hung up, but then she came back with, "What do you mean by that?" I leaned into it. I've been bending over backward to try and get along with you and Emma, and all I've gotten in return. Emma treats me like a free babysitter, and you act like I'm not good enough for Mike. I've had enough. I expected her to blow up. I thought she'd start yelling or getting defensive, but instead Karen went full Karen mode. Her voice got all cold and calculated. "Well, if that's how you feel, then maybe it's best if we don't go. But you should know that Mike's family won't. I won't be happy if you exclude us." There was a clear attempt at a guilt trip. I saw it coming from a mile away, but it still hit me like a ton of bricks. She was basically threatening me with the whole family, saying they'd all turn against me if I stood up for myself. This time, I wasn't backing down. I said, "If they have a problem with me, they can take it up with Mike. I'm done letting you and Emma take advantage of me. If you want to go on vacation, pay for it yourself." That's when Karen realized I wasn't playing around. She tried to backtrack, saying she didn't mean to make me feel that way and hoped we could work things out. I wasn't buying it. I'd heard it all before and knew she was just trying to save face. I ended the call by I told her I'd let her know if anything changed. But for now, they weren't coming. Then I hung up. I felt a weird mix of emotions. On the one hand, I was proud of myself for finally standing up to Karen. On the other hand, I was nervous about the fallout. I didn't want to cause a huge rift between Mike and his family, but I couldn't keep living like this, constantly tiptoeing around them. I told Mike everything. I was half expecting him to be upset or disappointed, but he wasn't. In fact, he seemed relieved. He said he'd been wanting to say something to them for a while, but he didn't know how. "I'm glad you stood up for yourself." That was the moment I realized I wasn't alone in this. Mike had my back, and together we were going to handle whatever came next. The next day, I started getting texts from Emma. They were mostly guilt-trippy, passive-aggressive nonsense like, "I guess we're not family anymore," and "I hope you're happy ruining our vacation." I ignored them all. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I knew what I had to do, and I wasn't backing down. Then Karen sent one last message. It was short and sweet. "We'll be at the airport on the day of the trip. I'll be at the airport on the day of the trip. I hope you change your mind." I knew exactly what I was going to do. They thought they could bully me into changing my mind, but they had no idea what was coming. I wasn't just going to cancel their tickets. I was going to make sure they showed up at the airport ready for the trip of a lifetime, only to find out they weren't going anywhere. It was petty. I told Mike the plan, and he was fully on board. He even helped me make sure everything was set up perfectly. We'd let them think they were going on this amazing vacation. We'd let them pack their bags and show up at the airport, only to find out they were never even on the list. The day of reckoning was coming, and I couldn't wait to see their faces. I had been waiting for this day for a long time. The day of the trip. The day I'd been planning and waiting for. I was ready for whatever drama Karen and Emma were going to bring. And I knew it was going to be epic. Mike and I woke up early, packed our bags, and made our way to the airport. I could feel that nervous excitement building up. You know, the kind you get when you're about to pull off a prank or something. I was trying to keep my cool, but inside I was practically buzzing with anticipation. I kept my cool, but inside I was practically buzzing with anticipation. We got to the airport a little earlier than we needed to make sure everything was in place. I had everything ready. Our tickets, the hotel confirmation, and most importantly, the knowledge that Karen and Emma weren't on the guest list for this trip. I'd already canceled their flights, and Mike and I were all set to leave without them. But here's the fun part. They had no idea. I checked my phone, and sure enough, on our way to the airport, I received a text from Karen. "Can't wait," it read. I could almost hear the smugness in her tone. She thought everything was fine and was still in control. She was wrong. About an hour later, Mike and I were relaxing at the airport, drinking coffee. I saw them. Karen and Emma were strutting in with their luggage, as if they owned the place. Karen had a huge smile on her face, probably imagining the luxurious vacation she thought was just a plane ride away. Emma, of course, looked bored, as if she were doing me a favor by even showing up. They spotted us pretty quickly and made their way over. I could tell from the look on Mike's face that he was already bracing for impact. Karen waved at us with that fake enthusiastic energy she always put on, like she was so excited to see us. Emma was trailing behind, scrolling on her phone, completely uninterested in everything. "Hey there, you guys. Are you ready for this trip or what?" Karen said, her tone way too cheerful for what was about to go down. "Yeah, we're ready," I replied, trying to keep it together. Mike shot me a glance, his expression saying, "This is going to be good." I nodded back, ready for whatever was about to happen. "Did you guys already check in?" Karen asked, looking around like she was expecting a grand welcome. "Oh, we're all set," I said, cutting her off. "You guys should go ahead and check in." Karen looked a little confused, but she and Emma headed off to the check-in counter anyway. "We're all checking in together, right?" I shrugged. "Nah, we did ours earlier. You'll have to get your tickets at the counter." That's when it started. Karen's smile faltered just a bit, but she didn't say anything. She and Emma dragged their bags to the check-in counter, and Mike and I hung back, pretending to be distracted by our phones. I was keeping one eye on them the whole time. I saw Karen step up to the desk, hand over her ID, and start talking to the airline worker. It didn't take long for the confusion to set in. I couldn't hear exactly what was being said, but I could see Karen's expression slowly change from that fake cheerful grin to full-on panic mode. Her hands started waving around and she kept pointing at the computer like there must have been some mistake. Meanwhile, Emma was still on her phone, oblivious to everything happening. Mike leaned over and whispered, "Think they figured it out yet?" Chuckled. "Oh, they're figuring it out a few minutes later." Karen stormed back over to us, her face red with frustration. Emma was finally paying attention, now trailing behind her with a scowl on her face. "What the hell is going on?" Karen snapped, her voice louder than necessary. "They're saying we're not on the flight. There must be some kind of mistake. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for." I stood up, looking Karen dead in the eye. "No mistake. You're not on the flight. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for." I stood up, looking her dead in the eye. "What do you mean we're not on the flight? We're supposed to be going with you." I shrugged, trying to act casual, even though I was loving every second of this. "Yeah, about that, I decided it'd be Mike and I are going alone. After everything that's happened, I figured you guys didn't really want to come." Emma, who had been quiet this whole time, finally chimed in. "Wait, what? Dumping us?" I nodded. "Exactly. You can't just ditch us like that. You're family. You can't just leave us behind." I told her how fed up I was with the way they treated me. I told her I was tired of being their doormat. I told her this was my trip, and I didn't owe them anything. I didn't raise my voice or lose my cool. I calmly explained that I was done letting them take advantage of me. Karen kept trying to interrupt, throwing in things like, "But we're family," and "How could you do this?" I rehearsed this moment 100 times, and I wasn't about to let her guilt trip me into changing my mind. By the time I was finished, Karen was staring at me like I just slapped her. Emma was speechless. She just stood there, arms crossed, glaring at me like she couldn't believe what was happening. "So yeah," I said, "Mike and I are going on vacation and you guys aren't. It's that simple." Karen looked like she was about to cry, which was honestly satisfying to see. "This is so unfair," she muttered, "after everything we've done for you." I almost laughed at that. Everything they've done for me. Please. Instead, I just smiled and said, "You'll be fine. Maybe next time you'll think twice. I'm leaving. I don't care what you think." Mike and I grabbed our bags and headed toward the gate. I didn't bother looking back, But I could hear Karen ranting to Emma about how unbelievable this all was. They'll spend the next few months telling everyone how awful I am. But I don't care. I felt free as Mike and I boarded the plane. He gave me this big goofy grin. "You handled that perfectly." "Thanks," I said, grinning back. I think I finally had enough of their crap. That's how we left Karen and Emma at the airport. We were ready to enjoy our vacation without them. It wasn't just about the trip, though. It was about finally standing up for myself and taking control of my life. And honestly, it felt really good.